Hi, everybody, and welcome to Reintroducing the Art of Conversation. I am delighted to be joined by my guest today, Karl Daly, owner and CEO of Humanli. I'm delighted to have him in the hot seat because this company that he set up is really it's needed now. I think now more than ever when we talk about corporations and charities and how we can all show up in the world a little bit a better place. But let me tell you a little bit of backstory before we go down the grilling of Karl process. Karl, you spent your working life in the financial services world, both employed and in later part self-employed. Worked with a number of different companies like Norwich Union, Canada Life, both in consultancy role, and then you moved in to set up your own business at the start of 2000 before you exit stage left and sold your shares in 2019 when you basically founded Metis Ireland and then decided to move into this different space. So I like to say that because all the content we're getting is from someone who has set up very successful businesses, have channeled through the world of understanding what the corporate side needs and wants, and equally your generous volunteer side is coming into flow. So I'm going to hand it over to you because I really want to hear, for those who haven't heard of Humanli, for corporations and charities that are just trying to figure out what it is that Humanli do for them, I'm going to pass it over to you. Just if you can talk us through who, what, where, when, and how Humanli came about, and hear your story.
Great stuff. Thanks, Maria. Great, delighted to be on. So thanks for having me on. Look, the idea for Humanli was in 2018-19. I suppose I decided. Metis was going on a journey, and I just thought, look, you know what, this isn't for me. So I decided I wanted to do something else. As you said already, I had a very successful career in financial services, really enjoyed it. For me, it's all about people. I love meeting people, talking to people. Financial services business was fantastic for that. So Humanli, the idea was, I suppose I've always had a kind of an altruistic nature. I've always liked to see other people happy. I've always tried to accommodate other people as best I can. When I was lucky enough to be able to exit Metis, I wanted to kind of give something back. Now I don't want to sound like a saint or anything, but I was trying to figure a way, what could I do maybe in the charity space to help charities, or how could this work? And over the years, I'd always done stuff. I'd always done charitable work. I'd always done fundraising. I do a lot of running, and I used to maybe run for different charities, etc., etc. So I liked that space. And how it all kind of clicked into gear was I had a conversation one day with a lady called Helen Downs. She's the CEO of the Shannon Chamber over here. And it was a totally unrelated conversation. She just asked me what was I doing into the future. She'd heard I was leaving Metis. So I kind of blurted out something, the kind of bones of an idea that I had. And she said, you need to come and talk to me. And as it turns out, Shannon Chamber had done a survey with all the Shannon-based companies in the space of CSR, so corporate social responsibility, for people who don't know that terminology. And basically what it is they had an LIT graduate who put together a survey to all the companies about what do companies do in the CSR space, and what are they expecting to get out of it, what types of charities do they support, do they have involvement from their staff, their teams, etc. So a whole pile of questions. And what came back from it was very interesting, in that a lot of companies were struggling as to what to do, what was a good fit for them, what was a good fit for their brand. And a lot of companies were doing it as a tick box exercise. They may have had a budget to spend in a particular time. So, October, November would be coming, and it'd be kind of quick, let's get something done here. And it'll be landed on somebody's lap, more often than not in the office. And they'd have to go off and figure out something. So they'd pick a charity, and there'd be no input or no logic or no process behind why a particular charity was selected. And then the other thing was that a lot of companies didn't know how to get their teams and their staff involved. What should they do? How could they get more involvement? Was that a big thing to do? So lots of very interesting stuff came out of that. I then went and had a conversation with Tony Frawley of Frawley Branding, who we would have used before in Metis. And
Well-known man in your neck of the woods. It does a lot of great work for a lot of organisations. Tony does.
Doesn't he just? No, he's a great guy and he was very helpful. And I met him for a cup of coffee out in Castle Troy, and I kind of articulated after having the conversation with Helen, and he got it straight away. He's like, get exactly. So we started to research and we found, do you know what? There isn't too many people in this space. Don't get me wrong, there's lots of consultancy firms that talk to charities on approaches and maybe try to work with companies on where they should be going, but there was nobody bringing them together. So the simple idea of Humanly is, and somebody put this out there only about 2 months ago to me, they said we were like a matchmaker, like a Tinder, if you want to put it that way, for the charity corporate space. So in other words, you have companies on one side trying to figure out what will we do, how will we utilize our resources to their best extent, and then you have charities on the other side, maybe not too sure how to approach big companies, maybe saying the wrong things and getting rejected at the first hurdle. So what we do is we sit in the middle. We have a process that we bring companies through, and we basically come up with a plan for them that makes sense, that fits their brand, what they represent in the marketplace, how their staff see them. We send a survey to all their staff about, after speaking to the company, we send a survey to the staff with questions and they send it back to us confidentially. And around all that, we frame a CSR strategy for them to utilize their budget to the best extent. And then on the other side, what we do is we're creating what's called a Humanly family. And what that is we're bringing the charities, we're actually physically bringing the charities on board to be a member of the Humanly family. Now, why we feel that's important, Maria, is because there's lots of issues. We've heard them all recently. There's lots of kind of negative stuff about charities. Where's the money going? Is it all being paid in salaries? Do the actual people that they're supposed to be representing actually get any benefit from the charity at all? So what we do is we take the charity through a process, and we look at things like their regulation with the charity regulator. We look at who's on their board. We actually talk to the board, get a feel for who the people are, and we look at the kind of expenditure that they have on a day-to-day basis in the charity. And we look to see, do they do accounts every year? Do they do audited accounts? So we do a little bit of a check, which gives some comfort then to the company on the other side.
To both sides, I would imagine.
Yeah, to both sides. Exactly. And then the whole idea then is that we find a match. So in other words, we say to this company, we think this charity, and this project, it could be a community project as well, is a good fit for you, and here's why. And then we get the engagement going. Now, the crucial thing, and one of the big things that companies said in that Shannon Chambers survey was that they don't see a return on their investment. So lots of companies, don't get me wrong, and I don't want to, lots of companies are doing some very, very good work, and they do this very efficiently. So not everybody needs Humanly's assistance, I'll just say that. But some of the companies said they were not getting a return on the investment they were making. And what they meant by that was that a check was being written, a photo opportunity might be taken, and then that was it. That was the end of it. So the charity went off, very, very happy and grateful to get the money, and went off and did what they did with it. But no feedback, no stories, and Irish people, we love telling stories, and nothing framed around where the resources went, what people had helped, testimonials from people, nothing like that. And that's where it was all falling down as well. So one of the crucial roles we play is that we work with the charity. So if we partner a company with the charity and they hand over funds, or there's volunteering or whatever the need might be that they provide, we follow that to see what the outcome was. So we've joined a company called Social Value International, and we're learning about international metrics of measuring impact and quantifying impact. So what we do is we do that as part of our service. We quantify the impact that the particular company has had by their intervention, and we frame that and we feed that back to the corporate. And it's huge learning as well for the charity for future future approaches they may make to companies. So that's in a nutshell what Humanly is.
I mean, and as you were journeying us and storytelling us through all the both sides, it's not, I did love the way Tinder always deserves a shout out, but like it is about making like both. The accountability has to be important, and for any of our young viewers who are looking at, you know, I'm getting a financial degree or I'm working in a job, and do I see this for everything? This is where I think, you know, Karl, you're a great example of, you know, you have career capital and you can pivot into so many different areas with experience like you have in terms of the financial services sector, because now you are really hand-holding companies and charities to showing up to each other and the world in a better place. And I think to your point of, you know, smaller organizations that are doing wicked stuff just don't know where to go to, like the bigger corporations who are looking for them but just can't find them. And then as you said, the values piece, you know, I think we're you know, actually something Joanne Sweeney who works in the social media space had said to me a couple weeks ago was, there's a reason why a big reality TV show like the Kardashians are disappearing, because values and storytelling and that relationship connecting is now so important to people, particularly younger people coming into the, you know, to companies. They want to make sure they're showing up differently. But before Humanli came about, or I mean, why Humanli came about from a personal side, you know, obviously social impact is something that you were really cognizant of over your career in the finance world, hence the reason why you're at and have created Humanli. You know, I'd love to hear, and you mentioned it briefly in terms of running and always giving back, but was this something that started from such a young age, or were you picking up different pieces or seeing best practices as you personally journeyed through your career?
Yeah, well, I suppose, look at, I was in an industry which everybody knows for a long time has had a very tarnished image. You know, financial services, you know, back when I started, it was, you know, there was no regulation, it was very loose, and there was lots of stories about people running away with other people, you know, and all these sorts of issues. But to be fair, you know, it has over the years sorted itself out. I suppose my upbringing in the financial services world was always on the side of advising people, building relationships with people, and that's what I'm good at, and that's what I like doing. And I think, you know, business aside, you have to get somebody's trust first and foremost. You know, it's not about the best product. I always remember a very simple example. I changed my career at one stage from a particular life company to another life company. One of them, they were mentioned earlier, but one of them was very, very long time standing in the industry, and the other one had a different image. It was it was seen as a direct sales company, different image, maybe a little less professionalism at the time. And I remember being approached to go and work for them, and there was huge prospects and opportunities to develop it. And I did a simple thing. I asked a couple of advisors that I was dealing with in the old setup, if I turned up, I asked them simply, guys, if I turned up with a new hat on me in the morning and I was wearing this company's hat, would you do business with me? And they simply said, we would. Because it's not about the product. If you tell us the product is okay, we'll take your word. It's about the person. We've built a trust and a relationship with you, and that's what we want. And that's kind of the way I've always done business, and the way I've always liked to do business. And I suppose that's kind of what I stand for. So it naturally fed into what I did every day. I placed the same trust and respect on people that we deal with. And when we formed Metis, it was very much client-centric. It was about doing good for our clients. It wasn't about us getting a win or us making money or us doing what we had to do to get the best out of it. It was always genuinely about what the client got out of it. So if it was good for the client, we would do that. And that's what we did. And that was inbuilt in both my nature and the other Karl that I worked with. And that's the way we built the company, and we built a very successful company. So naturally, as I said to you, that's the way I've gone throughout life. I like to look after other people, whether it's clients, whether it's family, whether it's friends. That's just the way I am. I would rather go without and see someone have something if it made them happy. And I don't want to sound like a martyr. That's been naturally inbuilt in me. It's just there. There's nothing I can do about that.
I mean, and I think hence the reason why, like, I wanted to make sure I asked that question, because I think sometimes, you know, when you set up a company like Humanli and it's so values based, that it's, that it's lovely to hear someone didn't just wake up one morning in the middle of a pandemic and was like, right, this is what's missing in the world. It's actually, you've lived this brand even before it's formed for many, many years. Back to the Humanli side, I just wanted to ask, the match is integral for success of the organization and business that Humanli is connecting, that you are connecting. For businesses and charities watching, what do they need to do in order to be ready for you and Humanli? Now, I appreciate and understand that you said we walk them through the processes, both corporations and charities, but is there prep that they need to get done before what's the homework essentially that they need to do before you start going, right, let's take this on?
Well, for me, Maria, I would think it's a willingness to get involved and to be really genuine about what they're trying to do. As you said, we have spent a lot of time developing a process to help companies on one side and to help charities on the other side. So we do walk them through. So, it's not really being, it's not a thing of being humanly ready, because we will get them ready. That's part of our job and part of what we do. We have two areas for companies. One is the process that we take them through to get them ready, and then the other thing is the partnership. So some companies might say to us, get us ready, and then they might go off and do the thing themselves. So so we'll work with them on that, and we agree a time and a fee for doing that work, and they could walk away. But in the main, what happens is they'll remain. They say to us, fine, that looks fantastic, but that's not going to happen unless you stay here with us and move it forward. So that's where the partnership comes in. So I suppose it's really a mindset. It's a willingness. You mentioned young people earlier, and I think one of the big keys is to get involvement from your people. What I have found is if you want to get into this space as a company, it can't be just the management and the people at the top driving it, because you're doing it then from the perspective of yourselves at the top, and it mightn't mean anything to the people working in the team. And if you're going off on a certain path and people aren't involved, they're not going to be interested in what you're doing. Like what I found when I've worked with a lot of young people in the last 12 months in a couple of the universities on projects, and they love this in the main, and they're going to interviews, they're going to companies for jobs, graduates, and they're asking these questions about CSR. Can I get involved in stuff? What do you do? Do you have a culture in your organization? Do you have a policy, a process? Is there something we can get involved in? If you're sitting there as a managing director or a HR person looking at them blankly, and the company down the road has told them, yes, we do A, B, C, D, that's where they're going to go. They want to get involved in this space. So I suppose what I would be saying is, it's about thinking about your company culture. What is it? What makes sense to you as an organization? So that's looking at your brand. What does the brand represent in the marketplace? How do your customers see you? But crucially, how do your staff and your team see you? And they need to be brought into the process. So on a company side, that's kind of really where they need to be thinking, and then we can work with them on the rest of it.
Yeah, and actually, I love the way you phrase that, because we often hear, talk, or work with organizations and charities that are like talking about diversity and inclusion and that piece of belonging. And I often say, maybe 2015 was a big, given the change that Ireland went through in terms of marriage equality referendum, but and companies were scouring, looking and creating these D&I reports and very, very, maybe top tier focused. And then they're sitting on shelves, collecting a little bit of dust, versus like working with teams on every facet, and that's just in D&I space. You'd said it.
Like Maria, I would just add there that as part of the research into all of this, we looked at companies like Cook Medical in Limerick, Dell in Limerick, that do this very well. And the key thing is to have your teams involved. Absolutely the key thing. It creates a culture within the organization. People are happier, people feel inclusive. And as you said, CSR is a very broad term, but it covers many things, like helping out in your local community. So we would say a community investment program, whatever that might be. Your people investing in the community that they're working in. financial investing to help people. But then you have the diversity in the workplace, inclusion in the workplace. You have all these areas. And then the sustainability part is another huge part. We're all conscious of the planet we live on at the moment and the damage we're doing to it every day. This all comes under the CSR heading. So if you have a company that can get into that kind of a mindset and bring your people along with you and show them your vision and get them to buy into it, then you're going to have a successful and happy company.
Yeah, and then sky's the limit in terms of engagement and really making difference at various levels. You had said it beautifully earlier on. It's like we were really a country built on volunteerism, and that term mehel, that beautiful Irish term, and mindset that we always have come with. And when speaking with organizations who need support and guidance, like do you feel as a society, I should say, in this post-pandemic weird world we're living in, that has been reignited? Do you feel, it must have been in the sense of corporations and organizations connecting with you and you're building them, supporting and building up. But are you finding it out and about in all the networks that mehel piece, that volunteerism is now, as I said, reignited? Because I think in the pre-pandemic world, the normal was very silo thinking. While a cohort of people still did the volunteerism, I think it was always the same people in the organization, trying to push the ship to be more and more engaged with organizations and volunteer projects. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, I think it has. And I'm basing that on talking to companies, seeing the way they've been reacting over the last 12, 18 months. I suppose the main thing is that when COVID happened and the pandemic hit us, the connectivity that we all had, that we took for granted, even if you look at the commute every day and the blocked roads, and everyone was giving out about that, but that was gone overnight. We couldn't go to our place of work. We couldn't meet our friends. We couldn't go for cups of coffee. We couldn't do any of that. And as someone said to me, albeit that we're all zoomed out or teamed out or StreamYard out or whatever you want to call it, without the technology, we'd have been disconnected. So I think one of the big realizations of people as individuals and companies as collective, as organizations, is that connectivity and being able to keep in touch with people is vital. And I think going forward, that's going to be even more in the forefront of people's minds. I've spoken to companies who are looking at, remote working, giving people options and flexibility, really, really grateful for what their teams have done over the last 18 months. Keeping their own lives going at home with maybe, kids clambering over them or whatever the situation was, still doing their work, keeping the business side going. And I think a lot of employers are very grateful and they recognize the efforts that have been put in. So, so I think going forward, the mehel thing, the coming together, helping everybody is very much to the forefront, because I think we had this shock of the pandemic. We had to adjust. And I think the big thing that came out of this, for me anyway, is, it's so good to sit across from somebody and have a cup of coffee and have that connection. And that's the thing I missed. And that's the thing a lot of people have missed. And I think going forward, that needs to be recognized. And I think that companies that don't recognize that don't recognize the efforts their teams have put in, and that don't bring their teams forward with them, are going to lose out. I think it's the people that come together, where to next, work out a new plan, help other people. Because one of the big things we realized is that some people have sailed through COVID, had a great time because they have a nice setup at home or whatever it might be. And other people have been in horrible situations, trying to keep things going, trying to keep their jobs, etc. So I think we have a responsibility in the workforce, in society, to bring everybody along with us. I think that's where it should be.
Absolutely. And I just even think of the first lockdown and the second, local GA teams or sports teams jumped on to help local supermarkets deliver, or pharmacies deliver to medicines or food to those that were cocooning. And I was helping out my local team. And I tell you what, like, there was times where and we had a big WhatsApp group, and it's like, who's available at this time? And there was times where I was like purposely just waiting by the phone because I had missed people, and that
Yeah,
connect.
of course.
But the amount of those that I would have met in passing being like, this is my first time volunteering in the community. I'm new to the community. I absolutely love it. Like, I'm getting to, get out and about and selfishly do something. But when you wave at someone in the window and says your groceries are here, one guy was like, the excitement that I had enabled to say, like, I did something really good today. And then what the corporate link was, I went back on and I had a meeting the next day and I was telling people, like, listen, I did this last night, and and it is that network and that connectivity and the beautifulness of Mehel as we just chatted about it.
Yeah, and look at it. Irish people are great at this, and they do it all over the world. I just remember an example. I just say it to you. I don't know if you come across a lady called Rebecca Winkworth, but she's based in Medellin in Colombia. She's Irish from Dublin. She got stuck out there, but you might remember her at the beginning of COVID. She's a trained singer, opera singer. She sat on her balcony the first night, and she started singing a song, and it morphed into every evening at about 7 o'clock, she would come out for about a half an hour and sing 2 or 3 songs. And everybody in the surrounding apartments in Medellin, the center of the city, would come and listen to her and clap her and everything. And she ended up again, moving forward and morphing that into a concert that she streamed out internationally with loads of different acts streaming in from Dublin and Germany and Belgium and her side of the country where she was. And that all came from just the connectivity and the fact that we couldn't meet people anymore. So look at, this is an Irish lady in Colombia. So if we don't have inbuilt Mehel, I don't know who has,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I love that example. I'm so disappointed this is like our last question, because I think, Karl, I could talk to you for ages in terms of, just that beautifulness of volunteerism and the connectivity that you guys are bringing through Humanli. But, finally, like, next steps, how can those of us watching support and get involved in Humanli? Like, what are the takeaways, be it a corporation or an organization, in terms of connection with you?
Yeah, I think, Maria, if any company out there feels, if you go back to the beginning, the point I made at the beginning, if any company out there feels like that the work they're doing in this space is maybe putting them under pressure, they have time constraints, they're not sure what direction to go, and they're just doing it as a piecemeal thing, ticking a box. If they have that kind of a return from it, come and talk to us at Humanli, because that's where we help. I suppose one of the big things that came back to me over the last 12 or 18 months, and when we were researching this at the beginning to see was there a space for Humanli, was time. People are very, very busy. I think now, as they return to work, they're going to be even more busy. But remember, everyone is very conscious now, having gone through what they've gone through. So I think there is that desire to do good and to help others. And I suppose what I'd say is, don't let that subside. If they feel that there's an issue with time or direction or guidance, reach out to us. We're there. We have our website, humanli.ie. We're on all the social media channels. I'm very strong on LinkedIn from a professional point of view. So if anybody wants to reach out personally to me, feel free. We'd only be delighted to talk.
Fabulous. And while I take us into the split screen and you see us both, I just want to say, Karl, thank you very, very much. I've learned so much, and I've reignited my own little Mehel spirit, which I think now more than ever is most importantly. So humanli.ie, you said?
Yeah, humanli.ie.
And what I'll do is you'll see it right under the banner. We're super sophisticated in this tech world. With that, Karl, I say thank you very much for gifting us here and reintroducing the art of conversation, for sparking a lot of nuggets to look into, and both introspectively as well as in the corporations and organizations that we want to team up with. So with that, I say thank you very much.
Great stuff, Maria. Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. My pleasure. Talk soon.